into today. We're talking, self-driving trucks, cargo theft, some specific rule changes like in Hawaii, deregulation talk.
Right, and the ongoing health concerns for drivers, it's a real mix, but it all comes together to paint a picture of what drivers are facing.
Exactly. And our goal really is to map out what these shifts mean for the folks behind the wheel. We want to look at it from every angle, kind of like Hervey from life, as a trucker always advises.
That's a great way to put it. See the whole picture.
And ultimately, we want to spotlight how drivers can maybe take a bit more control, steer their own course through all this.
Yeah, and one thing that really jumps out from all these different sources is just how vital adaptability is becoming. The industry is definitely not standing still. So finding ways to navigate, well, it's less of a suggestion now and more like the new rules of the road.
Okay, so let's get rolling with those autonomous trucks. Aurora's making waves, right? Expanding beyond Dallas, Houston.
They are, big time. New routes going out to El Paso and Phoenix, and they're starting nighttime operations too.
Nighttime. Wow. And the goal is, what was it, tens of trucks running driverless soon?
By the end of the year, yeah. That's the plan. And it does feel like a shift moving from just testing to actual freight hauling, even with remote monitoring.
It definitely seems like a big step up. These new routes, they bring new challenges, right? Different terrain.
Exactly. You've got those long desert stretches, more remote areas, different conditions than, say, the Texas Triangle.
And the nighttime thing adds another layer. Less visibility, wildlife.
All of that. So the fact that they're pushing ahead, it signals they're pretty confident in the tech, even with that remote oversight as a safety net.
And predictably, you get a lot of different reactions. Logistics execs see, guaranteed overnight delivery.
Tension. Yeah, potential for big efficiency gains there.
But then you talk to a veteran driver, and they're thinking, okay, but what happens when a deer jumps out on a dark highway? Real-world stuff.
That's the core of the skepticism, isn't it? That lived experience versus the promise of the technology. And safety advocates, they're raising flags about those nighttime runs, too.
Makes sense. It's that classic tension, the potential benefits versus the practical, on-the-ground worries.
And understanding why people feel that way is key. The logistics person sees supply chain transformation. The driver sees potential hazards based on years of experience, different stakes, different viewpoints.
And it's not just Aurora. Waymo Via, they're getting into the Southwest, too, right? With Daimler.
Yeah, Waymo's entering Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California. Initially with safety drivers, but it's a big footprint. And partnering with Daimler, well, that's significant.
Definitely adds credibility. It suggests a long-term play, integrating this into, actual manufactured trucks.
Right. And starting with safety drivers lets them collect that crucial real-world data across all sorts of conditions before they eventually take the human fully out of the loop.
And again, you ask drivers and you get the full spectrum. You've got the old school guys saying, no way a machine replaces instinct.
Sure. Total skepticism.
Then the realists are like, okay, it's coming. How do I work with it or maybe profit from it?
Acceptance and adaptation.
Some drivers, maybe feeling burned out, might even see it as a potential way off the road eventually.
A different kind of exit strategy, perhaps.
And then the owner-operators, they're looking at it thinking, is this an opportunity or is this going to kill my business?
Exactly. Huge implications depending on where you sit. And it really drives home that point about seeing it from all angles, like Hervey says. An owner-op's view is going to be vastly different from a company driver's, naturally.
Yeah. So all this autonomous tech talk, it keeps circling back to this idea that drivers need to, pivot, right? Future-proof themselves somehow.
That seems to be the consistent message, yeah. Not necessarily fighting it, but thinking proactively. How can my skills evolve? What else can I learn?
Yeah, our sources keep mentioning gaining new skills, maybe tech-related skills, or finding ways to, earn income during downtime.
Precisely. Building options, building some control over your own future, regardless of how fast the tech develops.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Cargo theft. Seems like Congress is trying to tackle it with a new bill.
Yeah, a bipartisan bill focused on those organized retail crime rings, which is, a major source of the problem.
Good focus. So it's aimed at the bigger operations, the ones hitting the supply chain hard.
That's the idea. More of a national coordinated approach rather than just local efforts. Giving law enforcement better tools, maybe?
Like better tracking, more agencies working together, tougher penalties. It sounds promising on paper. And the ATA is backing it strongly.
They are. The industry's definitely feeling the pain from theft, so that support makes sense.
Yeah.
For an independent driver who's been hit, like we wrote about, this bill offers some hope.
But we also heard from like a fleet manager talking about the cost to the business and how drivers sometimes get blamed unfairly.
Right. And it's not just happening out on the road. The warehouse perspective reminded us theft happens at multiple points. It's a wider issue.
So the bill is a positive step, but maybe some cautious optimism is warranted. Like, let's see the results.
I think that's fair. Legislation is one thing, effective enforcement and real change on the ground is another.
Which means even with this bill, drivers still need to be vigilant, right? Can't just rely on Congress to fix it.
Absolutely not. Things like GPS locks, good insurance, security training, reporting every single incident, those proactive steps are still crucial.
It reinforces that theme again and again. Don't just react, take control where you can. Protect your load, protect your business.
Well said.
Okay, let's head over to Hawaii, metaphorically speaking. There's a change coming for CDL medical certifications there, going digital.
Yes, starting May 2025, Hawaii CDL holders have to use the FMCSA's National Registry System online. No more walking in or mailing forms.
And the key thing is the doctor, the medical examiner, they have to be on that registry.
Exactly. If the examiner isn't registered, the medical certificate won't be valid for the CDL, and that could lead to a downgrade or even suspension.
Oof. You can just picture the reactions. You got drivers used to the old way thinking, oh, great, more tech hurdles.
Right. Frustration for some, probably.
Others might be fine with it, maybe see it as more efficient if they're tech savvy.
Sure. And maybe even the doctors are thinking about the extra admin work involved for them.
And fleet managers are probably scrambling, thinking, okay, gotta make sure all our Hawaii drivers know about this.
It really shows the challenge of rolling out these kinds of changes, doesn't it? You have different comfort levels with technology, different workflows. The goal might be streamlining, but that transition needs careful handling.
Yeah, clear communication is key there. And it highlights why drivers everywhere kind of need to keep tabs on regulations, even if they seem local at first.
It's a good point. Sometimes these state-level changes can act as pilots for wider rollouts down the line.
Yeah.
Staying informed is just part of the job now.
Definitely. Okay, now for the big one. Deregulation. The DOT's been asking for feedback, and it sounds like the industry has thoughts.
Oh, yeah. Strong opinions across the board. Insurance costs, the CSA safety scores, size and weight limits. Lots of hot buttons.
Insurance seems huge, especially for owner-operators and smaller guys worried about those minimum coverage hikes.
Very worried. There's a feeling that it's driven more by, legal liability concerns than pure safety, and that it could push smaller operations out of business entirely.
That financial pressure is real. Margins are tight already.
Extremely tight.
Yeah.
And a big jump in insurance could just be unsustainable for many. It's a tough balance.
And CSA scores. We hear constant criticism about fairness, right? Whether they accurately reflect safety.
That's a persistent complaint. That the scoring can be flawed, maybe penalizing drivers or carriers for things somewhat out of their control, like certain equipment issues.
Yeah, there's a big push for reforming that system, making it smarter, fairer.
Definitely.
Then there's size and weight. Always a debate. Move more freight with fewer trucks sounds efficient.
Potentially.
But then you have safety worries, infrastructure strain, and the big question for drivers. Will we actually get paid more for hauling heavier loads?
That's critical. Increased workload or responsibility should ideally come with increased compensation, but there's concern it won't.
Right, and just the general fear that deregulation might mean fewer protections for drivers, maybe letting bigger companies push harder.
There's always that worry about unintended consequences, loopholes that might weaken driver safeguards. Finding that balance between efficiency and well-being is tricky.
So you've got owner-operators focused on costs, safety managers on scoring, company drivers on workload and pay. Everyone sees it differently.
It really underscores that there's no simple answer with deregulation. The impacts are complex and varied.
So again, no matter which way the rules go, the advice seems to be proactive about your own situation.
Absolutely. Don't just wait and see. Building your own resilience, whether through skills or savings or exploring options, that gives you agency regardless of policy shifts.
Okay, last major area. The health crisis in trucking. It's sobering.
It really is. And maybe hidden isn't quite right anymore, but it's a profound challenge. The long hours, the bad sleep, the food choices on the road, lack of easy access to healthcare.
And the mental strain too, right? Loneliness, anxiety.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It all adds up. The nature of the job itself creates significant health hurdles, both physical and mental.
And you hear it in the stories. The older drivers with chronic issues, the new drivers realizing how hard it is to stay healthy.
The families at home worrying.
Yeah. Even fleet owners admit it's tough to prioritize driver health when the economic pressures are so intense.
It paints a stark picture. And while things like wellness programs or telemedicine are good initiatives,
Sure, steps in the right direction.
they often don't address the root causes. The demanding schedules, the pressure on delivery times, the lack of good rest areas or healthy food options sometimes. Fundamental changes might be needed there.
It really brings home that point about managing your time, not just for the shipper, but for yourself. Making time for rest, decent food, checkups.
Crucial. Your health is your most important asset in this line of work.
And it loops back to what we mentioned earlier, maybe exploring other income streams, using that off-duty time differently could reduce some of that constant gotta keep driving pressure.
It could be part of a long-term strategy for better well-being, yeah. Taking proactive steps for your health, including finding ways to maybe lessen the physical demands over time.
So looking at all this, the tech, the regs, the health stuff, it's clear the industry's in a major state of flux.
No doubt about it. And that common thread is the need for drivers to be, well, adaptable and forward-thinking. Understanding all these angles, like Hervey says, is key.
And for you listening, remember, you're driving more than just the truck. It's about managing your time and energy for you. All this info today kind of points in one direction.
Thinking about new skills, maybe tech-related.
Yeah, or using downtime wisely, building something online maybe, planning ahead.
And it's not about fear, right?
Yeah.
Not about competing with robots. It's about being strategic,
Yeah.
leveraging the incredible experience and knowledge you already have as a driver.
In new ways, giving yourself more options, more control.
Exactly.
Ultimately, it's about respect for what drivers do, and we hope this deep dive gives you some food for thought, maybe some encouragement to navigate these changes and find ways to really thrive.
So considering everything we've talked about, the autonomous trucks, the changing rules, those persistent health challenges, here's something to think about. What's one single step you could take, maybe starting today, to begin shaping your own future in this industry, or perhaps even beyond it?
And if you want more resources on exploring some of these ideas, check out sites like retirefromtrucking.com or lifeousetrucker.com that came up in our sources. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.